not just try to shuffle them off into the next minimum wage job that's looking for workers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Orr. Appreciate that. Mr. Goldberg, 5 minutes, please.
Thank you. My name is Stephen Goldberg. I'm a senior attorney with Legal Services of Northern California here in Sacramento, and I've been practicing in public benefits and in particular in CalWorks for over 20 years. And I am here to discuss today what I have seen about the implementation of SB 1041 and particularly the 24-month flexibility, what I have seen in my practice from my colleagues in the legal services community and from other groups with whom I am connected who deal with CalWorks recipients. And what we have seen is, at least at the level of the individual clients, counties are not doing a particularly good job of implementing or encouraging the 24-month flexibility that exists in SB 1041. While state policy reflects that flexibility, that has not filtered down to the individual client's case. The statistics demonstrate this, particularly about education. Based on statistics from both the Community College Chancellor's Office and from the California Department of Social Services, the number of CalWorks recipients attending community college has significantly decreased since the passage of SB 1041. And this is a significant drop compared to the periods both during and before the recession. One community CalWorks college counselor told me that they now need to do outreach for their CalWorks program for the first time in the history of their program because they don't have enough CalWorks students. And that was not because of the end of the recession, because the demographics that are served by that program have not changed since the end of the recession. In addition, the number of CalWorks students with education as their welfare to work activity as compared to being in a self-initiated program demonstrated by the Department of Social Services statistics was only 141 in 2014, which is a significant decrease. One would think that SB 1041 flexibility would significantly increase this amount, but instead the opposite has happened. In my experience and in the experience of people I work with, the flexibility is not being implemented. Clients are being told that they cannot attend school as a welfare to work activity. They are not being informed of the 24-month flexibility. They are being told that they must meet work participation requirements even during the first 24 months. They are getting notices to go to Job Club even while attending school during the first 24 months. And they are threatened with or actually sanctioned while attending school during their first 24 months. My clients' experience are consistent with what Mr. Quiroz described. That is, clients being told, just go to Job Club and that's all you can do. Several particular examples illustrate the problem. Just last week, Legal Services had 2 clients. One was told to enroll in a specific program to assist with English language proficiency. When that program would not accept the client enrolled in an adult education community college program instead. The client was sanctioned for enrolling in that program because it was not the approved welfare to work plan. Another was attending community college in the northern part of the state and was sanctioned because he was attending college in his first 24 months. And the county has not even given us the sanction notices about that case. One county in particular, based on my communications with community college counselors, is encouraging students to disenroll from self-initiated programs and move to vocational education programs because vocational education counts towards work participation requirements for 1 year, while a self-initiated program does not, even though students can stay in a SIP for 24 months and beyond that if there is a firm completion date for the program, while students in vocational education are limited to that for 12 months. And I don't believe that these cases are aberrations. There is much promise in the idea of the flexibility for the first 24 months in SB 1041 to allow CalWorks recipients to find a program that will work for them to move them towards self-sufficiency. But unfortunately, on the ground, this is not being realized because implementation on the ground is spotty at best. I do understand that the change away from focusing on completely work first can be a culture shift on the ground. But to realize the promise of the 24-month flexibility, it is something that we need to do. Thank you very much.
Mr. Goldberg, with 20 seconds to spare, I appreciate you and your testimony. It was enlightening. Ms. Thorpe.
Kind of short here.
You pull it to you. Pull it to
Okay.
you. Yeah,
there's good.
room.
Excellent. Good afternoon, and thank you, Chairwoman Mitchell and Chairman McGuire and members of the committee. I'm Vivian Thorpe. I'm a homeless family advocate at the Homeless Action Center, which is a nonprofit service provider in Alameda County. We serve clients in both Oakland and Berkeley, California, where I carry a caseload of 40 cases, including regularly helping families apply for the CalWorks program, negotiating their ongoing paperwork with the program, many of whom use our office to receive their mail because they are homeless, either living in a shelter or living in their cars. I am here today to share with you my experience as an advocate for very poor parents with children who I serve. I'd like to focus my time on the 24-month time clock and how I have seen it negatively impact the families I serve. The best way to do this is to tell you about two stories which typify the families I serve. The first story is about J.S. She's a single mother in her early 30s with a cute, chubby, blue-eyed baby boy. She left a relationship that had become violent at the onset of her pregnancy and had recently lost her job in the tech field. Unable to pay her rent, she had become homeless and wound up in a local women's drop-in center for women and children. When JS came to us, she was scared and new to poverty. We helped her get a referral to be housed at a temporary 30-day shelter so she wasn't living in the street with her baby, and I helped her enroll on CalWorks. This was after the implementation of the 24-month time clock. JS was relieved to learn that through CalWorks, she could receive education because although she had a job in the tech industry, unfortunately, she did not have a degree and competition for work following the recession was steep. After I helped her sign up for CalWorks, she went on to see her CalWorks caseworker and was discouraged from enrolling in a community college certificate program, being told that she wouldn't have enough time to complete the program. Instead, she was enrolled in a mandated work fair program. With this discouraging news, the stress of being homeless, unable to seek education as her welfare to work activity, and possibly dealing with mental health barriers such as PTSD related to the abuse, JS became deeply depressed. With no support from the county to deal with the depression, JS struggled to complete the overwhelming amount of paperwork required by CalWorks in such a short period of time. One day, JS just stopped coming in to see me. Her phone was now disconnected. Soon her case was closed. I started getting the denial letters, that's why I know. Today, I'm not sure if JS and her baby are okay or what has happened to them, and neither does the state. Another former client of mine by the name of TC, her story is similar as well. She came to me with a very young infant girl, and the two of them were homeless living in her car in Berkeley. She was younger and had left an abusive family environment. I helped her to apply for CalWorks in the fall of 2013. The paperwork associated with the program just to keep her on aid was tremendous. The paperwork was also really confusing, especially regarding the exemptions for young children. This is something I have seen as a big difference between the pre-24-month world and a post-24-month world, as there are so many more paperwork requirements for each one, and each one presents an opportunity for someone to easily fall off the CalWorks program. Because TC was homeless, she had her mail sent to our agency, and getting in to pick up mail was difficult for her, especially because she didn't have a phone. Eventually, TC was sanctioned because she couldn't keep up with the constant paperwork demands and that were put upon her in such a short time frame. This is happening a lot more than it used to before the CalWorks 24-month time clock was implemented. What I've seen as an advocate since the 24-month clock is that there is a lot more paperwork given in a very short amount of time, and very few people are aspiring for education that will help them get a job that isn't a job at poverty wage level. I also have noticed that in the past couple of years, the workers are harder to reach. It used to be that I could reach a worker to prevent a sanction to get a good cause exemption if something came up with a family. And I've been at my job since 2011, just so you know. Now it's impossible to reach a worker, and those sanctions happen more frequently, even when there is good cause.
30 seconds.
And I just want to say, today I am raising my younger children at home. I am I was on CalWORKS. I was on the 60-month program. It worked for me. I was able to go to school and earn my AA and my BA and become a legal advocate today. My daughter is turning 21 next week, and she is studying for her bachelor's degree in biology, and I am an example to my children that the 24-month time clock does work, and restoring that 60-month time eligibility time clock. I want to say the 24-month one does not work. The 60-month eligibility does work and allows us to complete our educational plan so we can get out of poverty for good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Bartholow, Western Center, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairwoman Mitchell and Chairman McGuire, members of the committee. Jessica Bartholow with the Western Center on Law and Poverty. And I'm just going to skip to the chase and answer the question that I know Mr. McGuire is going to ask, which is, do I think that the 24-month clock should be here? The 24-month clock doesn't protect children. As we've heard in the committee hearing all day, which has been a tremendous hearing, and my kudos to the staff who put it together, a bathtub and a refrigerator helps to protect children. Childcare, when a parent's looking for work or getting mental health services or at work or preparing for work, helps protect children. We've heard that childcare access has been diminished since the implementation of the 24-month clock. We know that living in deep poverty doesn't protect children. And yet our program's maximum benefit puts kids at 41 or 42% of the poverty level. And if they have a child who's been denied aid because they were conceived in a way that the state statute doesn't allow, those families are below 34% of the federal poverty line in the state of California, with one of the highest costs of living and one of the lowest vacancy rates in our rental market. We've heard today that services, especially the new kinds of wraparound services that are available through family stabilization, help protect children. And yet only 1,300 families are receiving this crucial benefit, when we know that over 500,000 families are on aid, and all of them would benefit from it. We know that the 24-month clock doesn't find somebody a job, that a caseworker helps to do that, but that the person themselves are the one that has to go out and do it. And they can only do that after they are prepared to do that with a GED, with a mental health services, with domestic violence services, that they can receive through a good and strong CalWORKS program. We know that the 24-month clock does not incentivize work. I heard today that living in deep poverty is what incentivizes work. Having to wipe your child down in a storage unit before you drop them off at school sounds like a pretty good incentive to work. And these families living below 50% of the poverty line, having to look their children's eyes every single day, denying them their basic needs and all of their wants, is the incentive people need to be. I mean, they don't need anything more than that. The 24-month clock instead scares families. It scares families, and it puts the caseworkers in a place where they feel like they can't complete their jobs to help people find work and become stable. And it's easy to give up if you're a caseworker when you see people in these situations. The 24-month clock is unnecessary, and it's not useful, and it doesn't get us to our end goal, and it wasn't based on scientific data showing that cutting the time on aid would help people get off aid. Telling people they have to get off aid doesn't help them get out of poverty. So Western Center is strongly opposed to the 24-month clock, and we join our colleagues on this panel and previous panels in calling for an end to it. We believe that by doing that, we might be able to get back to a place where we can have a single clock that we can work with, that's easy to explain to recipients, and that within that clock, we can help extend the services that we hear are working for Michelle. And, and in closing, I would like to say, I was so moved by the power of Michelle's story today, and I'm really sad to know that her job that she spoke to you about, it's a 6-month job. It's a subsidized job that has a 6-month time limit. The housing supports that she has, they're part of those that were extended through the budget. They have a limit, and they're only available to a limited number of people. So while we hear the success of her, and we're so inspired by her stick-to-itiveness. We know that she had a special opportunity that might not even be there for her in the next couple of months, and certainly isn't there for the majority of families on CalWORKs today. Thank you for having this hearing. It was tremendously inspiring for all of us who have a hard job ahead to make this program be what it once was, and a program that can help people like those here today become what they want to be. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for both your testimony and sticking to our 5-minute time frame. That was very helpful. Senator McGuire, questions?
Just a quick question in regards to, I think one of the items coming into this hearing was the drop-off related to community college enrollment. And just looking at Mr. Goldberg, your opinion through the chairwoman as well, do you believe it's because of the inconsistency of rollout that we're facing these challenges?
I think it's a combination of workers telling people, just go to Job Club, the focus on work participation rates, and people just not being informed of the flexibility that should be available to them to even ask for it.
Okay.
And I would just say that that's consistent throughout the state. We've heard from several Southern California counties indicating that their college students were receiving notices saying, come into Job Club, even though they were enrolled in a welfare to work approved activity.
Mr. Kiddos, go ahead and respond, and then I'm sorry Mr. Stone isn't here, but in case they're listening in their offices, could you walk through what Job Club looks like? I went into a Job Club maybe 6 years or so. So after you respond, just give us a high level what the Job Club experience is when you walk in the door. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Just to touch on what my colleague mentioned here with JC Community Colleges. I think part of it also is we're on a daily basis, we're battling federal, state regulations. So our actual plan, believe it or not, has two sides to it. And that's always been a big question. Okay, what side do you use today? What side do you use tomorrow? So in our information that's presented to our clientele, I'm guilty. A lot of us really are confused about that. So the direction, regulations handed down are not clear because you're good for 12 months. If you go in for your AA, that's 2+ years right there. So the second year, sure, we'll go ahead and let them go to school if they participate in an activity that's going to meet their hours. So now they have to do 2 activities. School, because, they want to complete it. Another activity because it's going to meet our WPR rates.
But there's no childcare to cover both those activities.
No. So anyway, Job Club, typically Job Club, and that's always been a big issue for me also, but I know I don't have time to discuss it here. 20, 30 hours for our participants, under 6, over 6. Those are the regs we're going by. Yet Job Club is Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, mandatory. Try to sell that one. Okay, first day of Job Club, Monday through Fridays, they go in there, and I'm not saying it's a bad tool, but they go in, we give them an assessment test. They have to score at least above a 3rd grade level to be able to sit through Job Club and make heads or tails of the program. We have some qualified instructors that are willing to help, but the people that are attending don't have the basic needs. So they're Monday through Fridays. They go through assessments. What do you want to do when you grow up? So they're assessed, which is great, but not knowing what they're doing, what they're up against. Why am I being tested? I'm not dumb. Okay, it's tough. It'd be tough for me to go in there and do it. So from there, they're shown how to do their resume, build an employment portfolio, job search online, open up your email account. So they give them all the tools that are needed to go out and look for work. Behavioral Health Services meets with them and introduces their program. And if they feel they need to attend, then they come back to us. We'll go ahead and do what we call an amendment of the program, give them maybe 1 hour every other week for mental health services. Does that address the whole family's needs?
No.
1 hour, by the time I talk to my therapist, it's usually 45 minutes have gone by before I get to talk to her. So 1 hour doesn't take care of it. Okay, it just doesn't do it. They're sent out to job search, like in the old days when we go knock on doors and say, are you taking applications? They apply online. But the tools, the life skills that are needed for that job club, that's something you can't teach in 4 weeks. You can't do that. So by the end of the first week, our job club of 30, 40 participants has dwindled down to maybe 10. The other 30 are on the path to sanction. So
they need to come
basically,
back.
we forget about them. But unfortunately, at this point, that's the only option we have for a first activity.
Job club.
I do have to say, though, that if they're there for the second week, starting the third week, we will try to place them in a work experience. If they score well enough and they show the interest, we'll try to use our subsidized employment program. Okay, but that's another thing I can talk about next week or the week after.
So when I went to Job Club all those years ago, I remember an orientation that would certainly look different now because of, this section of the chart, that all of this policy that's happened since I was in Job Club 6 years ago.
Yes.
But there was an orientation that walked you through at a very high level. It wasn't, case specific about why you're in Job Club, what you could experience, what would happen to you next. That does not happen anymore, or it does?
It still happens. By the way, our job club, our county has contracted it out. They are contracted.
Yes.
So that orientation is presented, it's explained. Once again, our population is asked, do you understand it? Well, of course they do.
Right.
Do you have any questions? Well, of course we don't.
Right. Okay.
So that's after sitting with intake, 3, 4 workers, initial appraisal, myself or one of my coworkers, information from all 4, myself, information, and then they go to orientation, all in the span of maybe 1 day. So it's a tough.
I appreciate it. 20 seconds each panelist to give us final thought before we open it up to public comment.
I just want to say, I didn't get to say it in my speech, but I was homeless with my children. I went through Job Club twice. They never found me work. Once they got done with me, I was just pretty much cut loose. I insisted on going back to Job Club. They were contracted out as well in Alameda County. And, I'm going to be honest to just say it. I felt like kind of was a ring around the rosy sort of effect. I actually was able to obtain employment through people I knew in the community from the community volunteer work I did tirelessly for years, helping folks like myself rise up, and that's how my job club existed. However, the job club, even though their intentions were good, they didn't really connect the dots with us in the participants, and it was the dynamic where it was like 5 of us left at the end of it. So just want to share that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Ms. Bartholow, 20 seconds.
We cut this program, we cut benefits to the program, we cut time on aid to the program, and opportunities to the program during the worst recession of our lifetime. We didn't get any slack from our federal administrators. We weren't able to waive those months necessarily during the recession, during the 18 months of recession. Jobs became less, and the job market changed permanently. A job that's not poverty wage, that allows you to get the schedule that you need in order to stay out of CalWorks, isn't available in the same way it was before the recession. We need our program to reflect these drastic and very significant changes in the economy. And I think the first step to do that is to make sure that our families are not living in such deep poverty that children will forever have their opportunities stolen from them. And the second is to make timelines in the program reflect those that are needed to remove significant barriers to work.
Thank you. Mr. Goldberg.
The flexibility of SB 1041 is very good because it allows education, which is really a key way out of poverty and to self-sufficiency. The 24-month time limit is not good and should go away, and the MFG grant rule needs to go away.
Thank you. Ms. Orr.
I would concur with those statements. I just want to thank you guys for having us again. One last comment I would make is now that we're out of the recession, it looks like money's coming in. It looks like the state is doing a lot better. It's time to invest. And if we have to push the governor, then we have to push the governor.
Thank you very much to the entire panel. We appreciate your participation.
Thank you.
You want to do public?
Do want to say thank you so much, and thank you to the chairwoman as well for passion and commitment. This has been an issue that you have been focused on your entire career, so greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
And again, thank you all for hanging with us for the hearing. We're grateful, and again, as we are in this late hour, have dessert first and start on that chocolate, as I know Mr. Lightbourne is ready to go. For the chocolate, not ready to go here, my goodness. We are going to be opening it up for public comment. We welcome any and all of you to come speak. If you could just please state your first and last name, and we unfortunately are going to have to be able to limit to 3 minutes. And again, we welcome, though, your participation. And, sir, we'll start with you. Thank you for being here.
Good evening.
Sure.
Almost.
Absolutely. Make sure you hit the button. There we go. Thank you. There you go. You're on.
Okay, I'm on, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, my name is Kevin Asley. I'm with the Coalition of California Welfare Rights Organizations. I want to make a couple of points. One is that the CalWORKS program is funded with $3.7 billion coming in from the federal government. The state matches it by $3 billion. $1.5 billion is not spent on the CalWORKS program. It's spent for something else. That's partially why we have a big problem in California. Contrary to the myth that the maximum family aid for a family of 3 is $670, actually only 30% of the caseload gets the maximum aid. 70% of the caseload gets minus one person aid. And that would basically be CalWORKS penalties, sanctions, MFG children, timing out, and about 20,000 college students. Because right now, there are about 30,000 college students in community colleges. It's only 6,000 of them are in welfare to work. So 24,000 of them are potentially being sanctioned. The next chart basically has the 60 months shows that 21 red states have a 24-month clock. And the final point basically is that the guy from Ventura is correct, that the problem with flexibility is that the federal work requirements are in conflict with flexibility. Because if you assign, and the reason for that is that the counties are liable for 50% of the welfare to work penalties. It's a $600 million penalty potential. 300 goes to the counties. So therefore, counties are not going to allow people to have flexibility, because if they do, then they may face severe penalties. Thank you.
Do appreciate your time, and thank you for hanging with us today. We're
And
gonna,
thank you for this chart, because I think a member asked the question earlier, how many other states had the 24-month time clock? And so this was helpful to see that that is just California and Arkansas.
Arkansas and Idaho.
Oh, and Idaho, I missed that. Yes.
we definitely want to
Thank you.
compare to Arkansas. We're going to go to the gentleman with the best tie of the day, right over here, and do apologize if we have 3 minutes, and thank you for being here.
You don't have to apologize. I won't take 3. My name is John Bowders. I'm the Policy Director at Housing California. Thank you for convening this important joint hearing today. Thank you, Senator McGuire and Senator Mitchell. It's always nice to see you here. Appreciate your leadership on this issue. You know, a lot of people are going to speak to you about things that came up before you today, so I'll keep my comments very limited to one item. The Housing Support Program. We were very privileged this past year when the Assembly budget staff created this program. I was very pleased to provide the technical assistance to California Welfare Directors Association as they kind of helped craft that program to make it efficient for families in CalWORKS. And it was very heartwarming to hear Michelle's story earlier this evening, to see, I spent 10 years as a legal aid attorney doing housing and homelessness work, and so to see somebody who is getting real holistic services in the public benefits spectrum and having housing as an outcome for them is important. So all I would ask you to do is, you know, there's a push obviously in the last couple of years here, and a recognition that affordable housing doesn't exist in the quantity that it's needed here in California. there are conservative estimates that we're over 1 million affordable units shy of the actual need currently in California. And when you think about solutions for that, the cost of permanent supportive housing, for which there are a number of bill and budget items that are very heavy lifts that are coming around the Capitol, that's a long-term solution for a lot of people. But for families and for youth, there are alternative and less costly solutions to homelessness, and rapid rehousing is one of them. And CalWORKs is a very ideal place to utilize the rapid rehousing model. And so we would ask you, when you come closer to the budget deadline, to really seriously consider the ask that we share in partnership with the California Welfare, or the County Welfare Directors Association, to augment that program, which I believe has been very successful in its first year, to the $50 million funding level that we're asking for. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your work. Ma'am, we welcome you, and I do appreciate you hanging with us today.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is, excuse me, Martha Rodriguez. I'm an eligibility supervisor and training coordinator for San Diego County. I'm not going to go over any data. That's not my job. I'm here to give you a transparent, realistic of what's going on in my observation and professional experience. As you know, due to the task-based system, there have been a lot of changes that impacted our caseload and the ability to serve our clients. Due to that implementation, our one-on-one personal contact and the ability to refer our clients to case managers to implement family stabilization has been ineffective. So we've come up with solutions with our executive team, and currently we removed partially the task-based system in order to serve the high volume of applicants due to ACA implementation, which has been a lot of the focus geared towards that, and I believe one of the directors spoke about that. So a lot of our resources have been pushed to that, and therefore it impacted CalWORKs and the ability to refer our clients to offer to work. But now we're trying to get back in gear and properly refer them, give them the proper notifications, which could be one of the factors that there's erroneous sanctions, those are erroneous notices being sent out. So we're trying to alleviate those problems as much as possible, but we are short-staffed. We're trying to utilize all our resources that we can. So we had to revert back to our intake carrying caseload, which is, I'm only speaking to my county, what we're doing to improve the process and maintain a task-based system for the granted cases to provide better customer service. So the question that I keep asking my management team and leaders is, what is our priority? When we're shifting all these resources, what direction do you want us to take? We also have technical difficulties with our CalWIN-based system or MEDS program going in Cal years. So all of those factors weigh into us not being able to process these cases timely. So I see it as in my client's success is my community's success. So I want to make sure to implement whatever I can. Best practices within county, speaking to my colleagues earlier, we have different internal business processes. So that's, to me, that weighs in the factor of why we're not able to be consistent and standardize our success. So I would say just help us, help them by providing us with the right resources, staff, timely training of these programs and services to implement them well and successfully. Also incorporate staff input feedback to prevent these challenges. And then look into these county versus other county best practices like YOLO, which we would love to have in San Diego. So we are a huge county, so which is probably why YOLO can have this success right now. But hopefully in the future with these changes, our goal is to achieve for our clients that have self-sufficiency. So thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Rodriguez, great job. Thank you so much. And I think that you hit it home with saying that clients